All right, we're back here, episode 2.
Episode 2 of the HyperHired podcast.
Yep, Josh and Justin. Wanted to kind of seem like lowest hanging fruit, right? It's like, how did we get here? What's our background? How did we get into sales? How did we get into recruiting? How did we launch this company that's now like, one of the fastest growing sales recruiting companies in the country? It's
crazy.
Interesting story.
Interesting story. Who wants to go first? You, me?
Go for it.
Go for it.
I know you did high ticket sales. You started in call centers, insurance, that sort of stuff, and then did high ticket sales with an offer for a little bit.
Yeah. So I got into sales. I always wanted to be in sales.
Yeah.
I think my first sales job was at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas as a front desk agent, upselling people in the rooms. That was the first time I ever saw that, like, how hard I work and how good I get at my craft is how much money I can make. And at the time I was making crazy money, dude. I thought I was rich.
Yeah.
From upselling rooms.
What was your definition of crazy money back then?
I almost cracked 100K working like 25 hours a week.
Okay.
While still in school, while living in Las Vegas, all the perks. It was great.
Nice.
And then I got into health insurance sales. My buddy Sam was doing really well at it and got me into it. And that was the call center space. Learned a ton about that stuff, and then got into the agency owner of an insurance agency and learned how to run a call center, how to do the lead generation, all that stuff. And then, you're a serial entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Took on e-commerce, and then people kept learning about that. People wanted to learn about that, and then built a high ticket program for that. And there I learned high ticket sales.
Yeah.
Got mentored by a bunch of people. And I think all those skill sets, a lot of people learn a lot of stuff about sales.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to tie it all in together to make like the perfect product or the perfect offer. I think HyperHired is the perfect offer. It literally is
for sure
mixing our, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's mixing our use of digital marketing, sales backgrounds, just sales structuring of sales teams, all that stuff. So it's just the perfect offer, and it actually helps. It helps with the number one bottleneck that, sales companies have. But
no, 100%. It's probably the easiest product to sell.
Yes.
It's the easiest product that I've ever sold. Well,
100%.
I will say that now. I took probably 1,000 discovery calls to build the infrastructure.
Took a lot of discovery calls, man.
Now, but it's like now it's so refined and like such a simple process to where it's like one of those no-brainer sort of services where, like, by the time you get on the call with somebody from our enrollment team, it's like you've most likely already consumed between like 5 and 15 pieces of content.
Yeah.
You already have seen like success stories that we've had with other companies. You've already identified, this is my problem. This is how much it's costing me not having these sales reps. And realistically, like, all we're doing is we're consulting you through making a decision. And if it's not the right decision for you, totally respectable. But, if it is, then the nice thing with our approach and all the marketing that goes into it, and just like how much of a no-brainer it is, that if it is a perfect fit, there's a very, very high likelihood that we end up doing business together.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing for both sides, because our average client is growing pretty substantially when they do work with us.
100%, man. That's one of the biggest things about sales, and that I've learned about sales over the last 13 years that I've been doing it. As long as the sale benefits both parties, it's not like people think of sales as like, I'm going to sell you something and I'm going to get one over on you. We're helping these companies grow like massively. Don't you think that like the person helping you grow your company should get something for it?
Yeah.
It's
just like a very deep consultative process. You know what I mean? Like, even from the first discovery call to the, kickoff call to the weekly check-ins with, our CSM, like, everyone on our team comes from this sales background. They come from a sales management background.
Yeah.
Joe on the enrollment team, was one of the Medicare sales managers with like 15, 20 people below him before.
He was.
Sean on the enrollment team was, in like wholesale real estate, a manager there. So it's like everybody from the front end onward has that experience in, what it's like to build a sales team, train a sales team, what it's like to recruit a sales team, interview potential sales reps. And then not to mention, the CSM on the inside, all of them come from that sales background too. So, like Justin King, who's, our director of client success, literally knocked doors for 5 years at Aptiv, was a team lead there, is very well known. Like if we get on with somebody from Aptiv,
They know
one of the
Justin.
enrollment coordinators, they know them. Like people at like other large pest control companies are in VP levels now. We mentioned Justin's name; they know him, so it's like that's a great asset to have on the inside too for clients, and of course for us. You know what I mean? So it's all about just like taking that consultative approach to where like no matter where you are right now as a business, whether you're just looking at like door to door or looking to build a commission based phone sales team or like whatever it is, and you're considering that as an option, or you already have reps out and you're looking, how can I supplement this with more volume? How can I replace bottom performers, et cetera, et cetera? Regardless of where you're at, like there's value to be had when you work with HyperHired,
100%. There's tons of value. And it's not just that. One of the biggest things that I had to learn, I guess, when I first bought my first not sold, bought my first high ticket offer, which is 15. I sat there and I said, this is crazy. This guy's just instantly making $15,000 off me. And, like I have to fight my way back to make that money back. And why should I pay this guy this much money? And then people said that to me later on in sales calls. And I would tell them, be like, listen, you're asking me to help you build essentially the exact same thing that I've built. Especially when you're selling someone on, we're going to recruit for you. We're going to sell you. These are sales companies. So we're trying to sell them a solution. They're trying to sell a solution. So it's like, I'm helping you figure out how to get that done. I'm not taking any equity in your business.
Yeah.
Taking zero equity. I'm going to make it so you get the results. I'm going to be the best employee that you have on your team. And we're going to get this done in a month, 2 months, 3 months. We're going to solve the problem. What's that worth to you?
No, 100%. And if we wanted to, I'm sure like we could come up with like a parallel offer where we take equity in all these businesses, but it's the risk reward for most cases probably isn't there.
It's not there because of the fact that we most times want the success more than the clients want the success or something of the nature, right? It's like we're telling them like, hey, you gotta take these interviews. You gotta go gung ho on the interviews. And they're like, yeah, we're trying to do that. It's like, dude, like we're telling you, if you do exactly what we tell you to do, you're going to make a lot of money because you're going to have the right sales reps working for your company. And I don't know, the whole dynamic behind that is just crazy. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like if you're paying for a service and you want to get the most bang for your buck and you want to see a positive ROI from that service, obviously you had faith when you purchased the service. You should say, or you should follow what the service tells you to do. You know what I mean? So like, we're the experts. You come to us because we're the experts. You come to us because you've had this problem for a long time. It's costing you $500,000 a month not having the right reps. Then you get on the inside and you're like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm really comfortable like closing people in the interviews. I'm just going to schedule them for second interviews and, blah, 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 blah. Or it's like, yeah, you're only scheduling me with like 5 interviews this week. And then, why is it so low? And then we look at it, it's like you hired 4 of the 5 people. And it's like, did you pay us because you wanted 500 unqualified interviews, or did you pay us because you wanted 5 qualified hires?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's all about the end result.
There's some perspective challenges that happen with certain clients,
It's no different. You saying that makes me think about the lead generation space we'll use health insurance, for instance, right? A lot of people, they go to try to generate leads on their own and they'll generate the leads and they're $20 a lead. Yeah. Right. Now, if we're like, we generated leads, me and you, for our Medicare offer and like hit very hard. Those leads were $7 to $10 a lead. I told some people, hey, we're generating our own leads. They're $7 to $10 a lead. That's what it costs us. They're like, that's really high.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's high about it? You should be asking me about what the conversion is, because if a lead is $200 and it converts 100%, your CPA is $200. Same thing with the recruiting. They don't realize it's like, dude, it's not about how many interviews, it's how many hires you get. Yeah. So if we don't send you tons and tons of interviews because we get all of the crap out of the ecosystem, they get the hires that they want. What else did you want?
Yeah.
You wanted hires. We got you hires. We got you top tier guys that are all coachable. And then, the recruiting ecosystem kind of takes place where it's like, you have to keep it on because you need more and more people coming in because you're growing, not because you're doing bad, not because of anything else, but like, you want to go in another market. You want another manager. I would much rather take someone from the initial pool of entry level reps then bring on an external manager.
Yeah.
That never works.
Yeah.
You know, it has to be, you have to hit the jackpot to bring in an external manager that just instantly clicks with your company culture.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
It's most commonly done through just pushing that entry level pipeline. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Always,
And then
man.
another thing I've seen pretty often too, it's like it's either like quantity of interviews that people are focused on. I think a lot of people, when they make like a commitment into an external service, and they've had like, you know, negative experiences before with similar services, by the time they're on the inside, it could all be going swimmingly, but like they're just looking for like that one little thing. It's like, what can I nitpick and complain about?
Yes.
What can I nitpick and complain about? Why isn't this going good? Well, my last one didn't go good. Let me make sure I'm like laser focusing in and finding like the one small fucking thing that doesn't actually matter as far as the end goal.
It's human nature almost.
Yeah.
It really is. They just want to know that they didn't get ripped off. And it's like, no matter how much value you give, they're still going to try to find something. But those clients miraculously always turn into the best clients over time. Once they kind of get like beaten down a little bit.
Yeah.
Some people need a dose of reality, you know, but
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, how'd you get into sales, Justin? What made you be a psycho and get into the sales world?
So I've always been very entrepreneurial. I grew up in a house where it was like, you know, we were like lower middle class, and the whole ethos was like, yeah, okay, Justin, if you want that, why don't you get a job? And I was like 11. I'm like, get a job? I'm fucking 12 years old, mom.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so I started getting into like building websites, and like I would be in like chat rooms and stuff like that, just like learning different things online. And I started getting really obsessive about like projects and like video games and like simple programming and stuff like that when I was young. I sold my first website for like $150 when I was like 12 years old.
But that's the greatest feeling ever, man.
I had to use my mom's social security number to open the PayPal account.
Oh my God.
And she thought she was like, Justin, what are you doing on the internet? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she just like could not understand it, you know? But
it's always the things that happen at the early ages. Because me and you were very similar. I started doing entrepreneurial stuff on the internet at like 11, 12. I started making decent money. And it's just you see it and you're like, I'm hooked. I love it.
Because it was like, I mean, like I said, lower middle class. It's like, you know, I can build, like I just had this one conversation. I got paid $150 to do this one thing, and my dad makes XYZ and he's working 70 hours a week.
Right.
It's like, okay, so I just need to sell this one thing, or figure out like, how do I charge more for this one thing, and I need to sell it more times.
Yes.
And I can achieve the same outcome, and I can be on a computer all day, which was like something I love doing then.
Yeah, dude. When you're
so it's like, that was like early on though. Like I got my start like building websites and that sort of stuff, and then you know, by like 16, I was doing like marketing inside of I started a like internal and like right when vaping was getting real big. I was internal at like a big vaping company as like their director of marketing and that sort of stuff.
At 16.
Yeah. They flew me out to North Dakota when I was like 17.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's my first time on a plane. But
that's nuts.
So that was an interesting one. And I just, you know, I just kind of got a background in marketing, that sort of stuff. So like I was doing marketing from a very early age, and then figuring out like websites and like getting good at copywriting and that sort of stuff. Just like looking at other websites that were really good and that were larger than the one that I was managing. And then, you know, how are they writing things, and like what words are they using that are like, you know, causing people to take action, and like how are they advertising in this very niche space where you can't do Facebook ads or Google ads or anything like that. So there was a lot of that sort of trial and error at that level, at that age. And then, you know, come 18 years old, I got into basically doing, you know, I would call it like medium high ticket sales and more like operational stuff. I learned a lot about Zapier and APIs and that sort of stuff from working with a basically like a foreign exchange trading company.
Let me pause you right there.
Training company, selling courses, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so when you when you first saw Zapier, and you first saw that you can automate, what was that like for you?
It was pretty interesting,
dude. It's the greatest thing ever.
I had a lot of fun with it. Now to this point, I'm sure if like I look back at like some of the zaps and like automations I was building then, I'd be like, what are you doing, dude? You gotta do this. You gotta
Yeah.
You got to filter, you got to segment them, you got to fucking use a webhook here,
Yeah.
pull it in from this API. But back then it was super interesting too. And now it's like I look at some of the automations we have internally as far as like how we fulfill for clients, not just on Zapier, but like just like API connections in general. And it's like 20, 25 steps.
25 steps, webhooks going all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. So like, long story short, and I've barely touched on the sales side, but I did like medium, high ticket sales for a little bit for like a foreign exchange company. I was mainly on like the operations side and helping with marketing and funnels and that sort of stuff. And then basically around 20, so I had I'll mention this on the podcast because it's interesting. I had a stint where I was homeless from like 20 to, actually I think it might have been like 19 to 20.
Okay.
So like through that summer, through that winter. And then I came back and I was like, I got my shit together a little bit. And then I was basically, you know, figuring out like this agency stuff. I saw some YouTube videos about like marketing agencies and that sort of thing. Basically what had happened that kind of pushed me into the marketing agency world, which was my next step in my next business. I sold this one, by the way, when I was like 23. So I'll get into that story too. But basically, around like 1920-ish, I started hearing about like this marketing agency stuff. And I had a friend of mine, and we were both working internal inside this other company. And we had this big convention in Vegas. We had ran marketing for it. We just rented out this mansion. It was, you know, we rented out this mansion, selling tickets for like $2,000 for this foreign exchange trading,
That's crazy.
you know, training program. And so it's all these like wealthy people, and I'm there. I'm like barely scraping by.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm living in a basement apartment, and like I'm renting a room in a basement apartment and sleeping on an air mattress that's like deflating every night.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then everyone around me is like, yeah, we did $15 million last year with an agency. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck's an agency?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, we just do marketing for clients. My brain like exploded at that point at like 20 years old. I'm like, wait, so everything I do for this client, like for this company right now, that's generating them hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, I could do for 30 clients at once and charge them a percentage of that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Now's how it works.
Yes.
That's how it works. Yeah.
So then from there, it was just like straight trial and error. Like, how do I acquire clients? I'm fucking poking around Facebook groups, trying ads. I didn't have a ton of money for ads at that point.
Right.
But it was just like taking as many sales calls and having as many touch points as possible until I can get those few people to say yes.
Right.
And then I get those few people to say yes. And it's like, suddenly my life's changing. It's like, okay. So it took me a shit ton of time, probably, you know, thousands of hours of like figuring out, you know, all Jordan Belfort's courses, Grant Cardone, who, you know, in retrospect, I'm like a huge fan of his sales approach, but Jordan Belfort for me was like a straight line persuasion course, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That was like life-changing, you know, going through all that, all his, you know, trainings on YouTube, all that. I've probably watched a lot of that shit like a dozen times, you know what I mean? So it's just trial and error. And I didn't know I was selling high ticket at the time. I just knew like, okay. And in the start, it was like, you know, what can I provide this person with that they'll pay me for? And it's like, let me figure out how to actually do some of this on the back end. And it always worked out because I'm a problem solver. It's like SEO, fucking, you know, they need this, they need that. But I was severely undervaluing myself.
Sure.
But at that point in time, it's like every little dollar counted. And the experience is what really mattered more than anything.
Dude, let's touch on experience because our paths are like very, very similar. I went years and years and years. At first I was trying to figure out affiliate marketing. That was the thing. I made money on eBay, a ton of money on eBay when I was in high school, some weeks, thousands of dollars a week. But I was like, this isn't consistent. I don't know where to keep getting more inventory from. And I got into Amazon later, but I tried doing affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
And I kept trying all these different things. And I never actually got into affiliate marketing, not huge. I mean, when I had my high ticket programs, like I had affiliate deals and I would make a couple grand here and there, paid for Facebook ads. But all the little things of making video content, started making video content for that stuff, failed at it badly, you know, but it's like, everyone's going to fail at it badly. You just have to go, you know? So it's like, after you put your 10,000 hours in, you're now an expert. You know what I mean? I probably 100%. Put 10,000 hours in little things like building websites, even on eBay back in the day, learning, you know, just the little coding and stuff to like make your headline bold and stuff like that, you know, like JavaScript, stuff like that. Like the little tiny things all add up, man.
Yeah. For me, when I was selling the agency packages, and I could go on forever about like the trajectory of this agency, because it was actually like a happy mistake that ended up selling into basically like a big legacy TV agency.
Right.
Like 2 years later. But basically, like, I figured out, okay, we can acquire clients this way. I'm pretty damn good at sales. I just, I just perfected the process, consumed as much content as possible, did as much trial and error as possible. And now it's in a situation where it's like, okay, perfect. So I am very good at sales. I can, close people logically. I can provide a service that they feel is valuable enough for them to pay me 20% of ad spend in this case.
Right.
Right. So now it's fulfillment. And for me, fulfillment, my partner at the time was the one who had more exposure to Facebook ads, but then very quickly I became better than him at it.
From just never giving up.
Never giving up.
Yeah.
But the way I did that is, I would surround myself with people who knew more than me.
Sure.
So, like initially when I was fulfilling in that agency, it was, I was working with subcontractors. I was working with like a white label, Facebook ads and PPC agency. And the nice thing about doing that initially to start was, their media buyers who I had direct contact with were former Facebook employees, people who had been doing this stuff for 5-6 years at that point, which is a big deal in, 2018, something
Right.
like that. So basically I would just, we would be scheduled for a 30-minute call and I would keep them on as long as I physically could ask, cause they would be fulfilling and I'd be like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try that. They'd be like, yeah, we're going to do this and this and this. And I would try to like break down the logic chain of that. It's like, okay,
Sure.
so like we tried this, it didn't work. Like, why are we doing that? Okay. So that didn't work. That worked. Why do you think it worked? What was like, what's the, how are we testing the creative? How are we testing the copy? Like, how do you know what to test at what time? Blah, 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 blah. And then over a period, right, I became competent enough to lead those teams and find internal media buyers who were as good or better than me, or as good or better than the people who mentored me initially. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was like kind of my trajectory into sales. I've done like everything: operations, sales, marketing, a ton, lots of funnels,
Funnels
like,
are the best, man.
Yeah. But getting into sales, it was like a necessity, it was one of those things where it's like, I've been at rock bottom. I don't want to be at rock bottom again. Like, what do I have to do and figure out in order to make sure that I'm never at rock bottom? Right. That was like the biggest thing for me. So like, it was like, what's the why? And I had a why and I just did not give up because I didn't want to give up. I saw it as like, I had no other option.
That is the exact reason why with sales, if you just push through and you just have a why of I'm never going to give up, I don't have another option.
Yeah.
I spoke about this when I was on Tanner's podcast, man. Like, I didn't have a plan B. There was no plan B.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I moved out of my parents' house at 17 years old. I needed to make sure that college, everyone told me to go to college. What a joke. It was literally the biggest joke ever. They don't teach you how to make money. If they knew how to make money, they wouldn't be a professor. They'd be a donor of the college, not a professor at the college. So they don't know how to make money. And there was never a plan B. It's like I make as much money as I want to make, or I'm not going to have the life I want to have. And if I'm in control, I'm not going to let someone else be in control. And, just
100%.
No plan B means you're going to work your ass off if you want it to happen.
I remember I worked at Wendy's for like 2 weeks.
Quit.
I was making suicide memes in the bathroom. I was like, oh man, there's no way this is going to work.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. Looking back at jobs I've had, working in the hotel industry, working 70, 75 hours a week for peanuts, $38,000 a year, wearing my own suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Once you're tired of that enough, you'll figure something else out.
No, 100%. So yeah, background in agency sales, did a ton of that. Just like perfected it. I had 2 agencies that I ran. One was became niched in e-commerce and direct to consumer products. Sold that to a big legacy TV agency when I was 23. I'm turning 27. That was an interesting experience because basically they needed a strategic acquisition. They had tried to build like a digital team in-house, all this stuff. And ironically, it was a client or was a consultant for a client that we worked with who just called out of the blue, and he's like, hey, would you guys ever be interested in selling? And I'm like, I don't know, probably not, but
Yeah.
let's see what happens. And then it ended up being like very favorable terms. Like it was, retained equity, cash up front, guaranteed salary. Like it worked out. So like I was in a transitionary role as like CEO of that for like 10 or 12 months. Basically helped implement a lot of the SOPs that I built across the whole company, and all that sort of stuff. And then, just parted ways, moved on to greener pastures, better things.
We're at greener pastures. We're actually sitting here in the main pit, in the main call center here at HyperHired. Just wanted to give a brief overview of how we got into sales, why we got into sales, like what you can achieve if you get into sales. Me and him haven't even scratched the surface of where we can go, because we know that with all the things happening in the world now, AI, the fact of like we solved a problem in recruiting, and we know that we haven't even scratched the surface on how many clients we can impact. That's the cool thing about sales, man. You get on the phones, you start selling, but then you start building products that can help people. And then you build and build and build. And I don't know, we're kind of weird. Like we're not going to ever figure out like once we hit this number, we're done, keep trying to solve problems, but
for sure.
Awesome. Well, it's been episode 2. I'm Josh. This is Justin. And I don't know, any final words?
No. I mean, I guess like if you're looking to build a sales team or you're looking for recruitment help, whatever the case may be, need a little bit of help or consultation, head over to hyperhired.com. There's a ton of resources. Actually, like our blog section even is like actually very good.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
blog section is actually really good.
A lot of companies, like they'll just AI generate blogs and stuff like that. But I personally reviewed, like we have a content team, of course, but I personally reviewed every piece of content that goes on the blog, and like it's pretty packed with value. Plus we have a ton of subpages by industry. So if you're like looking for some help with recruiting or, sales in general or whatever it may be, just head over to hyperhired.com, check it out.
All socials,
all
TikTok,
socials.
Instagram,
TikTok, trying to grow
YouTube.
that stuff. Follow us.
Man, we give a lot of value. So appreciate you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, and we will see you on the next one.